Okay, I'm back. Who's ready to get started on the trial? I hope everybody had a good intermission. Let's just let's just jump into it, I guess, right? I got time. The Return of the Great Departed Soul, Trial Part 3. '24th October, 9:11 a.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber.
Good morning to you, Mr. Naruhodo.
Good morning, Professor. Ready for today's proceedings?
Hope so. I should be. Even I would.
Good morning, dear fellows. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you're here. Why, naturally, a true gentleman stands shoulder to shoulder with his friends in battle at all times. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll see you later, then. Now, Professor, we really need you to remain calm in the courtroom today. Yes, do try your hardest not to enter the witness stand uninvited again.
Yes, I will. I realize it was a mistake, but...
My dear fellows, I must interject. Oh, you're still here, Mr. Sholmes. What's the matter? Surely you've overlooked some praise, have you not, to be cast in my direction, Sorry, I don't follow. Must I spell it out? I, the great Herlock Sholmes, the greatest detective of worldwide acclamation, arose at some ungodly hour to be here now, first thing in the morning. A miracle, you must agree. Well, if I must agree, then... As you know, my sleep is quite impregnable. Iris had to employ her full gamut of tactics. She pulled the covers off, shook me, poked both cheeks, punched me, and kicked me from the bed. Then she poured a boiling cup of her latest experimental blend on my face, and at last I was disturbed. Oh my, Iris has been busy. Iris doesn't have it in her to go that far. She's too nice.
Ah, I sense the spirit of a fellow scientist, one who relishes the infinite possibilities of blending tea.
I'm the one worthy of praise here, not Iris. This is my victory. Sorry to cut in. Oh, Inspector Gregson, good morning. Gregson, my dear fellow, why the grim expression at this delightfully early hour? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because I've been confronted with a grimmer expression, eh? Dear me. And are you going to take that insult lying down, Professor?
What? I don't know.
Poor Professor. Anyway, here's the paperwork you asked for. What paperwork? I took the liberty of requesting it yesterday. I have a feeling it may prove useful. You wouldn't believe the hoops I had to jump through to get this brought out of the archives. It's the Professor's autopsy report. That mass murderers who killed 5 members of the aristocracy. He was found guilty in a closed trial 10 years ago now. It was all done under wraps, and he was quickly executed soon after the trial. It's all in here. Killer's autopsy report. They couldn't call it the Professor's autopsy report. I don't know what to say. Thank you, Inspector. Yes, much obliged, Gregson. Us lowly lot of the yard, just doing what we can. In the shadow of the great Detective Sholmes, of course. Well then, Professor Harebrained, this is it. Today we're going to lay all this to rest at last. I wish you the best of luck, Professor.
I suppose he'll be into there, will he? Trevor?
Yes, we expect the prosecution to summon him as a witness.
I'm still amazed that you managed to find him in just one day. I really owe you both so much.
Counsel and the defendant, the trial is about to resume. May kindly make your way into the courtroom at once. Alright, who's ready for my voice to die voicing the judge? This is it then, final chapter. Funny, my heart's racing a little. I've not felt this before actually, this strange foreboding. As if something's gonna happen in this trial that I'm not ready for. Well, Cosmo is supposed to be here, so... But I can't let that distract me from the only thing that really matters. Finding the truth. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the public hearing of Albert Harebrained, here present, who stands accused of murder. Are the counsels for the prosecution and defense ready to proceed? Prosecution is ready, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. As promised, Lord Van Zeeks has his apprentice with him. His apprentice with memory loss. If I may, Lord Van Zieks. Yes, my lord? There appears to be someone standing at your side. Ah yes, my apprentice and assistant. The prosecution believes today's proceedings will see the complexity of this case rise considerably. Damn. I therefore instructed my assistant to ensure the smooth running of the trial. And the smooth running of liquid refreshments by the look of it. The way he holds himself, the way he moves, it couldn't be anyone else. But he's still suffering from amnesia, so there's really nothing we can do at the moment. I know, but oh, this is so very hard. It would appear the prosecution has done a fine job in responding to the demands of the court made yesterday. I understand that you have successfully secured the engineer who disappeared from the scene on the day in question. Yes, my lord. I intend to call him as a witness shortly. Very good, very good. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, who have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this courtroom today, are you ready and willing to proceed? Of course, my lord. I'm sure we all understand the importance of doing our civic duty. I do so despise deception and deceit. I find it so very wearing. To take a man's life with a conjuring trick, it is against the magician's code, not to mention the law. Any fake scientist should feel the wrath of God, if you ask me. We have to listen to what is said on both sides on the fence and then settle on one. That's it, innit? Wasn't like this in my day. Wasn't like this at all. All parties are ready to proceed. You may begin, Lord Van Zieks. All right, you, my lord. There is a report I must read to the court. Yesterday, at the Great Exhibition Grounds, the evidence of primary importance in this case, the super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine, which was installed on the experimentation stage, was deliberately destroyed in an explosion effected by an unknown person or persons. It was what? Explosion? No, that's not an explosion. This is an outrage. Uncle Sven. Yes, I heard this grave news yesterday. Scotland Yard submitted a report to my office in the evening. I read that the machine was blasted to smithers and the wreckage reduced to ashes in the flames. I have here a photographic print of the scene taken in the wake of the explosion. It shows what little remains of the machine. Yes, a terrible business. Did it to destroy the evidence, did he? That Enoch Drebber. The court will take this Princess Evidence Counsel. Late yesterday afternoon, the prosecution afforded to the machine by the special dispensation. The protection afforded to the machine by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act was revoked. However, before a thorough investigation could begin, the invention was obliterated from existence. As such, this will become a very different trial. As it stands now, with no evidence on which to draw meaningful conclusions, the authenticity of the kinesis machine will remain forever in obscurity. Indeed, a most unfortunate state of affairs. However, one thing remains clear. The victim's death was the result of the actions of the accused. Of that we can be certain. For it was the accused himself who was operating the machine, and who ultimately caused its loss of control. Objection! As Lord Van Zieks rightly says, this is a different trial now. The accused accepts responsibility for his part in the events that transpired. He acknowledges that Mr. Asmund died as a result of the accident caused by his machine's malfunction. However, unbeknownst to the professor, he was oh, that's why they can't call it the professor's autopsy report. He was being deliberately deceived by a pair of very clever fraudsters. Names, counsel, if you please. The engineer, Mr. Enoch Drebber, and the victim himself, Mr. Odie Asman. So what exactly were these two men up to behind the defendant's back? The defense intends to expose that information, thus establishing the unequivocal innocence of the defendant. We didn't do a summation last time, did we? Thank you, counsel. Which means we'll probably have to go through like 2 today. That would be awful. It would be very tragic, and the case would almost certainly cease to happen. Yes. Lord Van Zieks, summon your first witness, please. At once, my lord. The prosecution calls the engineer, Mr. Enoch Drebber, to the stand. State your name and occupation for the court. Name, Enoch Drebber. Occupation. Hard to pin down, I would say. See that black monocle? Yes, why? I've seen it on. Oh, you too. I had exactly the same feeling. Your file indicates that you're currently being investigated in connection with another case. It would be an interesting case, but I'm not sure that the I'm not sure that the case would even continue after the defendant passed away. The theft of a waxwork model, is it? It's a most extraordinary sounding business. But that has no bearing on this trial, I assure you. Cleave it from your mind. You're familiar with the public experiment carried out at the Great Exhibition some days ago? The accused super high voltage instantaneous kinesis demonstration? Yes, you could say that. You could say that. I am aware of it. There was a terrible accident, wasn't there? It was you, Mr. Drebber, who constructed the vast machine used in the experiment. Would they have to put out a ruling? Given that we've had a case where the defendant died in the middle of the trial, they didn't give out a ruling in that case. So I would say no. You can't try a defendant who's already dead, unless it's very extenuating circumstances. And like an exception that law is carved out for that, I guess. It was you, Mr. Drebber, who constructed the vast machine used in the experiment. Or so our investigations indicate. Can you confirm your involvement? Yes, I constructed it in precise accordance with the blueprints, that is all. Yeah, but she wasn't dead. If she passed, it would have been... If the defendant passed in that case, it would have been a whole different story. Because they even say they risk not having a defendant to cast judgment on. That line comes up in the, Oh. I assume he means survives and doesn't go to jail. Because the victim has survived twice in these two games. Then the court would be very interested to hear about your thoughts about the machine, I'm sure. An amazing device. An amazing device, if you ask me. The pinnacle of modern science, making instantaneous kinesis a reality at last. What? Good gracious, do you mean to say that the experiment was bona fide? Is that your belief, sir? Yes, that is very much my belief. Such a waste that it flew up. But we've already established the machine was nothing more than a prop for an elaborate conjuring trick. You've established nothing of the sort. All that was shown during yesterday's proceedings is that the same outcome could have been produced by means of staged trickery. The defense merely proposed a method and demonstrated its feasibility, nothing more. But... We've procrastinated long enough, I feel. Witness, you will now give your formal testimony about the machine that you constructed for the purpose of the demonstration at the Great Exhibition. Understood. Finally, a voice for a witness that's not going to make me go insane. I met the young professor approximately 1 year ago through Mr. Asman's introduction. He provided me with the blueprint and I constructed the machine to his precise specifications. It was no trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double. Tell me, did the victim have a twin? All the spectators saw the birdcage appear above their heads and crash headfirst into the crystal tower. A terrible accident, I grant you. Perhaps the science on which the machine was built was flawed somehow. A body double? That goes without saying, surely. To give the impression that something has moved when in reality it hasn't. It's a basic conjuring principle. The deception cannot be achieved without substituting the original with a fake at some point in the performance. But would I be right in saying that you haven't managed to establish anything along those lines? Ugh. Incidentally, the prosecution has already confirmed that Mr. Asman has no twin siblings. It's my understanding that this witness is well versed in conjuring artfulness, but such talents do not indicate that he was actually able to accomplish what he claims, namely the construction of what, by all accounts, must have been an extremely complex scientific machine. Whatever do you mean? Yesterday's proceedings brought the true nature of your past exploits to light, Mr. Drebber. Indeed it did, my lord, and a swindler who preys on innocent scientists to elicit government grant money through conjuring know-how. Yes, it's true that I possess considerable knowledge of stage magic, but crucially, my scientific knowledge more than matches that of any academic in the field. Investigation of the witness's workshop attests to that claim, my lord. As evidence, the police found this Royal Society trophy for young talent in science here. Yes, that's true, we spotted it there ourselves. If a hypothesis is sound, it can always be forged into a physical manifestation with sufficient skill. Though I may have sold the secrets of some deceptive ways to sniveling, talentless scientists in the past.
Would you therefore assert that the explosion of the machine was
an unfortunate accident, or, of course, a deliberate act of murder carried out by misuse of the science?
Counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, please.
Yes, my lord, I'm going straight for the contradiction. I'm sorry. I think I have this.
Objection!
Oh, that's not it. Okay. Fine, okay, fine. I'll do it the normal way. Shut up, that didn't happen. So you were already acquainted with Mr. Asman himself? Not really. By chance, I'd seen his name mentioned in the papers, that's all, but I had no interest in his private affairs. If he was an unscrupulous investor, it was of no concern of mine. As long as people pay their bills, I take out my tools and construct what they ask for. Why did Mr. Asman approach you in particular, then? Who can say? I presume because my name is associated with excellence in engineering. Not to mention excellence abroad. Hard to gauge, but the point is, all I did was construct the machine according to the blueprints I was given. In other words, the kinesis machine was built on solid scientific principles. Yes, you might say that. Professor Harebrain certainly has a mind like no other. Actually, I want to check aren't the blueprints in my court record right now? They're not. Oh, I didn't check this. I meant to. What the fuck is the point of this thing then? Oh. You really love contraptions like this, don't you? Oh yes, anything mechanical I find absolutely irresistible. Almost irresistible, surely? Well, whenever I see a pocket watch, for example, I can't help myself. I simply have to take it apart. That's worrying. Yes, father tells the time by the rumblings of his stomach now. He's given up having a watch. Poor Professor Mikotoba. Look, Mr. Naruhodo. What is it? On the bellows just there. There seem to be some very dark red stains. Yes, you're right. Looks like blood, actually. Oh my. I'm sure it's not what you're thinking. Interesting. How does that... Curious where that will lead. Ah, look here, Mr. Zato. Oh yes, the wood's cracked and broken a little. I suppose because it fell from such a height? Yes, from the height at which the balloon was flying, down into the crystal tower below. Fall of about 30 feet, or 9 meters. Leaving the man inside tragically dead. Metal plaque here. Fostering burgeoning talent with the future of scientific discovery. Seems rather ironic, doesn't it? But clearly Mr. Jebber was a very talented scientist. His luck does look very strong, doesn't it? There's definitely no way you could remove that mask yourself if it was put on you. What a terrible way to treat someone, even a convicted criminal. I know. It's starting to make me livid, actually. Mr. Naruhodo, please. How do I feel about the Great Ace Attorney compared to the other games? I love it so far. This is already one of my favorite games in the series. When we get, I will do like a full discussion of how I feel comparatively once I finish the game, because I don't think it's fair to any of the games to compare it now. So, but suffice it to say, I'll probably be considering this game as one long 10 case experience. I mean, just think about it. Imagine if you had an itch on your cheek all of a sudden. You'd be utterly helpless. Well, yes, that's true, but I'm not sure that warrants quite so much anger. Oh, right. Sorry. Oh, Ryu, don't change. That's it? The more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to handle whatever comes along. What your implication is that I furnished the machine with some trickery, I think it's a possibility that we have to explore. Unfortunately, though, the machine has been blown to Kingdom Come. Much like Gregson, so there is nothing left to explore, is there? It appears that the kinesis machine was fitted with a timed explosive device of some kind. And there's nothing left of that device either, not a single shred of evidence remaining, I hear. Must have planned all this from the outset. But in any case, it's abundantly clear that the experiment couldn't have been a trick.
Hold it!
Of course, that's it. No,
Objection!
we went through this. Perhaps my learned friend wasn't listening earlier. Mr. Asman had no twin siblings. No, I heard you before, but the thread of hope hadn't quite left me. The demonstration could have been a trick if there was someone who looked sufficiently like the victim. But Dr. Scythe absolutely ruled that out as a possibility. It is beyond question that the victim himself, Mr. Asman, did move from the stage to Crystal Tower. The fingerprints found at the scene attest to the fact. So it can't have been orchestrated using someone who looked identical to Mr. Asman then. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruto? Oh, no, nothing. Just the idea of someone who looked identical to the victim is playing on my mind. I think this is the statement. Maybe I should have... It couldn't be.
Objection!
Nope, it's not that. Let me look at all my evidence again, actually. Just... We've done this already. There's no way. This couldn't be it either. I don't want to lose all my fucking health on this first thing.
Hold it!
Shit!
Objection! Objection!
Nope, okay. I'm really getting too far ahead of myself here, so... This statement just feels wrong, but like, you know what? I'll just fucking...
Hold it!
Crash head first, you say? Oh, fuck. Were you not there at the exhibition grounds that day? Unlikely. I rarely leave my workshop. Yet, another of your unique inventions was found at the scene. Well, it was the unveiling of a machine I labored over for very many months. I saw it clearly with my own eyes, the birdcage plummeting headfirst into the tower. No surprise. I believe the victim's neck was broken from the headlong fall, wasn't it? How could you have come by that information? Even an infernal recluse like me reads the newspapers, you know. According to the reports, 2 injuries were apparent on the victim's body. Yes, he's been stabbed in the chest by a screwdriver believed to belong to the defendant, and had a broken vertebrae as a result of a fall from considerable height. Correct. My learned friend has been doing his research, it seems. Do we know which injury was the fatal one? Sadly not. Forensic science is not yet to the level where such things can be determined. What we do know is that the victim died having sustained both injuries at some point during the experiment, and since he was found in the birdcage with his neck broken, it's obviously fell from a considerable height. Suppose it's hard to deny. Okay, yeah, I was right. It didn't fall head first, it fell ass first.
Objection!
Damn it. It was so easy. We've examined the bird's cage that crashed into the crystal tower ourselves. As you can see, the cage, which is a wooden construction, has sustained damage in one particular spot. Following the explosion, it fell some 30 feet into the glass of the crystal tower. That level of damage is to be expected, surely. I agree. The damage itself is entirely understandable. What doesn't make sense is the location of the damage. The location of the ringmaster's head. All the breakages in the wood are at the base of the birdcage, not the top. What are you saying?
That's the opposite of what they should be.
That's right, my lord. The birdcage that was at the scene is damaged at its base. Oops, sorry. Clicked through the game. We have reports of the birdcage falling headlong into the crystal tower, yet the damage is at the bottom. The only way to reconcile these two facts is to accept that there were 2 birdcages in play that day, which were at some point switched. Switched during what wasn't a scientific experiment at all, but an elaborate piece of stage trickery.
Gracious, explain yourself, witness.
Well... If we examine the facts, there's only one logical conclusion we can draw. The damage on the base of the birdcage clearly indicates that it crashed tail first into the tower. But multiple witnesses' reports claim it fell head first. The birdcage materialized in the sky next to a balloon flying over the stage, following a spontaneous explosion, at an altitude of some 60 feet above ground level, which is approximately 18 meters. It then proceeded to fall some 30 feet into the crystal tower in the ensuing deflagration. Witness reports amid such chaos are notoriously unreliable. But the victim's neck was broken.
Objection!
He plummeted 30 feet inside a heavy wooden cage. However he fell, it would be unsurprising to find 1 or 2 of his vertebrae crushed. Cuck. You call me a cuck? You're the cuck. Cuck. A riveting scientific analysis of events from the prosecution there. Though to be even more rigorous, you would have to say it was only 1 vertebra. Actually, He wasn't quiet for long. I find it hard to see what's motivating Lord Van Zeeks. This witness is clearly a swindler and one who deceived a personal friend of his. If you're going to establish deception, do it right. Sorry, I feel like that's the undertone here. Or sorry? I feel like that's the undertone. And yes, there's one more point the defense appears to have forgotten. It obviously wasn't a trick. It, as a certain truth, very plainly demonstrates... What?
It seems to me that the cross-examination better continue.
What?
Amend your testimony.
Fine. Treat the matter scientifically. Yeah. What do we do this?
Objection!
Yeah. This is a diagram of the experimentation stage and surroundings. We know that somehow the birdcage appeared in midair before falling down into the crystal tower. Fall of about 30 feet, or 9 meters. However, if you examine the diagram carefully, you'll see that there is one other possible location from which the birdcage could have fallen. The same distance of 30 feet.
No. Well, it appears the defense has a plausible explanation to put forward. Go ahead, counsel.
Yes, my lord. Of course.
You will indicate the place.
Take that!
The place I'm referring to is here,
But that's where the birdcage would have been to begin with.
which is exactly the point, my lord. Yes, the birdcage was in the machine on stage, but what we must also consider is the height of the stage itself.
Go on, counsel.
It turns out that the experimentation stage was built at a considerable height above ground level. If you look at the diagram, in fact, you'll see it's about the same height above the ground as the balloon was above the crash site. When the experiment got underway, the machine and the birdcage were engulfed in steam. At that moment, the floor of the stage gave way, and, if we assume there to be a void underneath, this birdcage and the one seen by the audience would have fallen almost exactly the same distance. Once again, my lord, this all points to the fact that there is not one birdcage, but two.
Objection!
My learned friend has no evidence that the stage had such a contrivance in its design. Someone is responsible for the criminal destruction of the kinesis machine itself, it's true. However, the stage still stands. And take a moment to look at the photographic print of the scene following yesterday's explosion. Oh, they weren't going to make me point that out?
Good lord, the metal grill that formed the floor of the machine is undone.
Yes, most likely blown open by the force of the explosion that destroyed the rest of the machine. The defense calls for the space below the stage to be investigated immediately. Meow 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 meow. Mr. Drebber. It was you who built the kinesis machine, which means it was you who built the two bird cages that were used to carry out this deception. Whether Professor Harebrain's hypothesis is sound or not makes no difference, because it's the construction of this machine that matters. A machine designed to take Mr. Asmund's life. And lay the blame firmly at the professor's door, something that could only have been carried out by you, Mr. Enoch Drebber.
Objection!
Thank you. If my learned friend has reached the end of his wild assertions, the prosecution would like to crush the defense's argument slowly, but surely. What? Your argument fails to hold water on 2 counts. 2? I can't figure out just 2. Firstly, before and after the experiment, the witness went nowhere near the kinesis machine. Every relevant member of staff from the exhibition has attested to that.
I believe members of Scotland Yard have also been on watch duty at every public experiment.
In other words, Mr. Drebber had no opportunity to switch the alleged pair of bird cages. But I've already explained why he wouldn't have needed to. The nonsense with the crossbow, that doesn't bolster your case at all. The man who disappeared from the stage and the man who crashed into the tower are one and the same. The forensic investigation team's report is unequivocal on that point. Ah. And the second flaw in your assertion is a distinct lack of motive. Why would this man want to take the victim's life? He had no reason to do so. A motive? Do I have to think of everything myself? I have here a contract provided by the witness.
What contract is this, Lord Van Zeeks?
The contract in which Mr. Drebber entered with the victim, Mr. Asman. It reads, Mr. Drebber is to receive 30% of all remunerations from government grants or other income.
30%, certainly very favorable contractual conditions.
But there was one very important provision bolted onto that clause. What provision? Mr. Drebber may only uphold his right on condition that both contracting parties are alive. In other words, if either of us were to die, the contract would become null and void. That is so convenient. Why is that in there? So you see, I had nothing to gain from Mr. Asman's death. The diametric opposite, in fact. The mocap on this is really good.
Ugh.
Need I say more? The witness had neither an opportunity nor a reason to commit the alleged crime. In short, the possibility of Mr. Drebber having done as you suggest is nil.
It seems the defense's assertion was somewhat wide of the mark. Lord Van Zeeks, you will submit the contract as evidence, please.
It's true, if Drebber had no opportunity to switch the birdcage under the stage with the one in Crystal Tower, he couldn't have done it. And in any case, I have no idea what his motive might have been. Maybe he has the forensic team under his thumb. There's one aspect of the argument that still holds true, however. There were 2 bird cages. The prosecution is unable to deny that. So I'm sure you're on the right lines, Mr. Naruto. And I have no doubt there are other aspects of your assertion that are undeniable truths too.
Well, it would seem that the defense has no rejoinder to offer.
Well, I must say I'm a little surprised. I came here to testify the machine I built, and instead my reputation is defiled. But the prosecution's counter has set the record straight, I think. It's impossible that I'm the culprit.
Objection.
It's his object. Don't do this. I hate when the 3D games do this. At the beginning of this trial, we believed there was only 1 birdcage, yet now we know there must have been 2. In other words, there was more to the demonstration than we realized at first. I think it's abundantly clear that the same applies to the culprit. Get to the point. The stage demonstration was constructed and set up in its entirety by you, Mr. Drebber. Therefore, it's inconceivable that you had no hand in the events that transpired. Yep, exactly, Blue. So if circumstances mean it's impossible that you could have carried out the crime yourself, it points to the fact that someone else was involved.
Someone else? Counsel, are you suggesting?
Yes, my lord. Mr. Drebber had an accomplice.
Objection.
An accomplice now? Well then, I presume you prepared for what's come. Now that you're accusing not only this witness, but someone else of the most serious of crimes, if the accusations turn out to be false, then make no mistake, the prosecution will demand you an equally serious punishment for your slander.
Well, counsel, you intend to pursue this course and formally accuse another party of involvement in this matter.
What do I do here? At the moment, this is a little more than a hunch on my part. I don't know for sure if Drebber had an accomplice, or even if he really is the culprit here. One way or another, though, I have to make my position clear, as a lawyer, so it's my stand. Do I have to do this? Whatever. Courtney, huh? The defense is ready to name Mr. Drebber's accomplice. Somehow the 2 bird cages must have been switched. Everything points to that. Yet according to the coroner's report, that's not a possibility. But that inconsistency itself is a clue. Oh, just give it away to me, why don't you? Counsel.
Counsel,
My lord?
you have received a stark warning already. If you are nevertheless determined, then I must ask you now to identify this alleged accomplice by name. So, your answer, please. Who do you claim to have been Mr. Drebber's accomplice?
It was Mr. Drebber himself.
Take that!
The name of the person in question is... What's wrong, mighty pony's friend? Surely fear doesn't bind your tongue now. It's a little late for that. Of course, I'm afraid. After all, naming her in this capacity is definitely going to make waves. A lot of waves. I could very well turn every single person in this courtroom against me. I'm sure it will be alright, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you, Miss Susato. The enemy always appears larger than life, but you'll appear exactly the same to the enemy. Alright then, here goes.
You've kept us waiting long enough. Your answer, Counsel, now.
The person who colluded with Mr. Drebber in order to carry out this wicked crime is Scotland Yard's coroner, Dr. Courtney Scythe.
What the blazes are you talking about, Dr. Scythe?
The head of the forensic investigation team and the coroner who conducted the autopsy on the victim? We know there were 2 bird cages, so who could have carried out the switch to complete the illusion? The accident happened in front of a huge crowd of spectators, and the area was immediately sealed off. Then everyone, police officers included, were banished to make way for a forensic investigation team. When else could the switch have occurred? It can only have been in that team's presence. It's essential that the court determines exactly what happened following the incident. The defense demands that Dr. Scythe be summoned to the witness stand at once to testify.
You got a nerve, lad. Standing up there dragging the yard's name to the mob.
I didn't mean to.
I know the one very well. There's no better deadroom worker out there. How dare you call her a criminal?
My learned friend's imagination appears to be wilder than the East End at night. But the recklessness of your accusation aside, there's another grave problem with your argument. One which the prosecution demands you address at once. A grave problem? Oh my word. Who do you claim acted as the victim's doppelganger? What?
Certainly, if the bird cage containing the body of the victim was exchanged for another, that cage must have also contained a body.
And yet, no missing persons or accidental deaths of anyone even remotely resembling the victim have been reported. Which means there was no one, dead or alive, who could have filled the role of a body double for Mr. Asman. That's true. My argument is that there were 2 bird cages. There also must have been 1 person inside each. But I don't know if I've got an answer to this yet, have I? Very well. The defense will address my learned friend's concerns by presenting evidence that reveals the true nature of Mr. Asman's body double.
Vicious evidence? I do hope this isn't filibustering, Counsel.
Me too, buddy.
The court is expecting a name.
If you think you have relevant evidence, present it now. Body double and the birdcage were hiding in the balloon that was floating above the stage. It means that any witnesses would have only seen them from 60 feet away. So who was it that appeared out of the explosion some 18 meters above the spectators? Aha! Oh shit. I don't actually know what I'm doing. This is awful. I thought it was gonna be the professor. I thought it was going to be the Professor Waxwork, and I'm not exactly sure how to do such a thing. Is it the wax figure? It might be the Waxwork head, honestly. This has to be it. We know that the victim, Mr. Asman, was in the birdcage that was situated in the kinesis machine on stage. And therefore, he couldn't have been inside the second birdcage. Instead, that contained something else. What's been described as a body double, which is what fell from the sky and crashed into the crystal tower.
Yes, Counsel, according to your somewhat elaborate version of events.
And that body double inside the second birdcage was in fact. It's alright, Mr. Naruhodo. You're ready for this. Just steel yourself. And come out with it. Thank you, Mrs. Zato. I knew that. As I was saying, the body double inside the second birdcage was, as unbelievable as it may seem, that thing there. Why is it here?
Objection!
Open your eyes and look into mine, my new pony's friend. I do that all the time. Now tell me, what are you playing at? Stand firm now, Ryunosuke. This is the time to show your Japanese spirit. As the court will observe, this is a waxwork model. Ha, the slap, he's not confident. A model, in fact, of an infamous London murder from 10 years ago, the Professor.
Objection!
You started by indicting the leader of the forensic investigation team as an accomplice in this crime, and now you've moved on to indicting waxworks. Yes, that's about the size of it. But why? And why this waxwork? It looks nothing like the victim. In fact, it could hardly resemble him less. What possible justification could you give? If you want to know why, ask Mr. Trevor. What? Just days before Professor Harebrain performed the public demonstration, Mr. Trevor abducted this model from Madame Tussauds.
Did you say abducted?
And 2 days after the incident at the Great Exhibition, he returned it to the museum.
Then the timing... Is this true, Mr. Trevor?
At first, I couldn't see why Mr. Trevor would have stolen the waxwork and then given it back again, but now the reason is clear. He took it so that he could put it inside the second birdcage as a body double for Mr. Asman.
Objection!
Are you hearing this, ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Are you hearing the defense's astonishing proposal? That the witness fabricated this vast machine with the intention of deceiving some wretched scientist, and that he did so in collusion with the country's finest coroner on a public stage in front of a vast audience. And that, to effect the deception, he used a waxwork model that in no way resembles the victim. Are we really to believe this far-fetched tale? What do you decide?
Objection!
Why is there a literal child on the jury? I'm not going to get over this. Wait, yes, if you put it like that, of course it sounds implausible. My lord, I need to speak, if you please. Summation time.
Myself and my colleagues have reached an agreement. Very good, in that case. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, will state your leanings. Okay.
Guilty! Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty. I think I got all their voices wrong.
So, as indicated by the foreman, the jury has reached a consensus.
I knew that was going to happen. We shall get through this, Mr. Naruhodo, as we always do. And uncover some new truths along the way, I'm quite sure. Yes, I agree. I'm gonna have to appeal to the jurors as usual, and see if I can persuade them to change their minds.
The defense will now embark on a summation examination. Are you and your fellows ready to proceed, Mr. Foreman?
We are, my lord. Very well.
In that case, I now ask you to state clearly for all present to hear the grounds on which each of you has decided that the defendant is guilty of the crime of which he is charged.
Why is he starting?
I've known that woman for years. She'd never been an accomplice to anything.
It's utter nonsense to think those two would ever be conniving with one another. Oh dear, this is almost troubling. But surely the waxwork the man stole has nothing to do with the coroner, is it? I have had my own problems with members of the police. I do not trust them much.
I've seen no rigorous proof that this waxwork was ever inside the birdcage. It's conjecture.
He isn't someone without right evidences. He's not a prob job, is he? I won't have it.
Somewhat unsurprisingly, it seems the introduction of this waxwork model to the proceedings has polarized opinion. Given that its face is obscured and its build is in no way resembles that of the victim, I can only applaud my learned friends' temerity as suggesting it as Mr. Asman's body double. Yes, the applause is deafening. And yes, I know it seems extraordinary, but that's the point. That's why I have a strong feeling it's actually a greater clue than anyone yet realized. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruto? I can't explain why at the moment. But I feel as though there's a specific reason why it was used, why it had to be this model. Really? Really? A reason why nothing else would do, you mean? Yes, and I'm convinced it's something far more significant than whether or not the model looked like the victim. Well, if that's the case, we must prevent the trial from ending prematurely at all costs. Yes, agreed. We have to find a way out of this. Alright, alright, alright.
If you already got
Yes, my lord.
I look good.
Alright, let's see.
Hold it!
The order of things seems to have changed around here for some reason.
I'm a copper, lad. It's a copper's discretion to bend the rules sometimes when needs. Oh my. What's wrong with that?
Where do I start?
I've been working at the yard for 40 odd years.
That's even more than I thought.
They've only had a metropolitan police service in town for 70 years, you know. Of course, times have changed. The public didn't trust coppers back when I started. It was rough. We had to fight crime and we had to fight to win the public's trust as well. And when we did, forensic science was in its infancy too, even more than it is now. And she spearheaded the revolution.
Dr. Scythe, you mean?
That's right. About 10 years ago. No, it was. When I was still a youngish bobby on the beat. That's when she started making a name for herself as a top-class coroner. And now look at her, head of the forensic investigation team, and a woman no less. Well, you won't hear me complain. It's what we all dreamt of back then, I tell you.
Oh, the equality. Did you tell me about holding the gun in the air?
We were all out of hope, Justice lad. Full of him, we were. Full of him.
That's coming across loud and clear.
Hold it!
We're only just starting to understand this case. What are you reading there, sir?
The man behind those murders on Solar Pond Street was caught in 2 days flat. That's real policing for you.
That's really not relevant to the case, is it?
You're wrong there. Because it was Dr. Scythe in charge of examining the bodies. And it was evidence arising from her work that led to the arrest of the scoundrel responsible.
Oh.
That's right, oh. The woman's at the forefront of this country's fight against crime. The idea that she's somehow involved in this murky business is a load of old posh. But it's up to me to press the jurors, not the other way around.
Hold it!
Why would you assume that?
Well, quite simply because that unsettling swindler has no relationship with the woman, does he?
True, as it stands, we don't know of any connection.
Oh, gosh, it would be delightfully romantic if they were somehow to have a mutual interest in the waxwork.
Romantic?
A woman of society such as myself views everything in terms of relationships, you know.
Well, you learn something new every day, even when you don't want to.
I might wonder about a possible relationship between the defendant and this coroner woman. Or perhaps between the defendant and this handsome prosecutor over there.
This woman may be more astute than I've been giving her credit for. If that's the woman's stance, then perhaps demonstrating some connection between the waxwork and Dr. Scythe would be enough. Yes, I agree.
Because we have even a whiff of connection, he'll be the first to know.
Hold it!
What sort of problems?
Let's just say we have run into each other on numerous occasions while I've been performing on the street.
Right, I see. OT3. Right, I see.
Obviously, artists such as myself cannot appear on stage as we work in close proximity to our audiences. We perform our great magic in parks, on street corners, and the like. But the police use any...
Excuse me.
Okay, excuse me. Do you have something to say in response to that, Mr. Ottermole?
Oh, you're calling a mass murder. What?
What? No, sorry, my mistake. I got confused because I heard you. Oh, right, because you look like him.
I don't look anything like the man. You want to be locked up, Sonny?
Thanks, Mr. Sholmes. Was we gonna move on? I was really wondering if you had something you wanted to add in response to what juror number 3 said. Clearly you do.
Back in my day, back in the good old days, it wasn't like this.
What was it like, sir?
We worked our fingers to the bone to earn the public's trust, we did. And by Jove, we earned it. People respect that.
Respected you?
No one would have called a coroner into the question in them days. A coroner's report was the hallmark of the investigation done right, especially when Dr. Courtney Stevens put her name to it. She was the best of the best.
What? Hold on a minute. What are you talking about? Who's Courtney Stevens?
Sorry, got a bit carried away there.
Stevens is Dr. Sykes' maiden name. Her maiden name, so that was before she was married.
Of course, yes, silly me. It's Sykes now, isn't it?
Stevens. Who is a Stevens? I don't remember Stevens. Wait a minute.
Anyway, the point is, those are the great days of policing, not like now.
Fair enough, sir. Do you think you could change your statement to include that name?
Yes, I don't see why not.
Oh good, I can check the book. Oh, that's why. I wonder if I can press this again and present evidence.
Hold it!
She was legendary, was she?
What did you say? That woman is the best coroner in the land, head of the forensic investigation team.
Not you. Legendary was your description, sir, not mine.
Rubbish! That word never passed my lips. I never describe anybody that way, ever. Not if they were still in the game.
I think the point you're trying to make is that Dr. Scythe is an extremely talented coroner. Would that be fair?
It would.
Shit.
Objection!
There we go. These two statements clearly contradict each other.
Good gracious, to whose statements do you refer?
Oh, here. So, juror number 2. Gosh, me? What can I do for you? I presume you heard what juror number 6 said in this statement. Brought to light the maiden name of the coroner, Dr. Scythe, which in turn has revealed the connection that wasn't apparent before. Well, naturally, as a woman of society, I find such connections and relationships irresistible. But oh golly, I'm afraid I failed to see what you mean. Dr. Scythe's maiden name is Stevens, and through that name, the coroner is very definitely linked to the waxwork of the killer. The defense has evidence to prove it. My goodness, evidence you say? How utterly enthralling. Okay, yes, the evidence is this, right? I should have figured that out from the fact that they had the same name. They don't reuse names like this in Ace Attorney.
Take that!
I have here a certain autopsy report from 10 years ago.
10-year-old autopsy report. What relevance does that have?
It was sourced from the autopsy report of the person portrayed in the waxwork, the killer known as the Professor.
The professors, but the man was a capital offender, so...
That's right, this is a certification of death that was drawn up after the convict's execution. The identity of the killer was never made public, so the report gives few details. But what's important... Oh, you thought it was a mistranslation or typo? They're usually pretty good about that, but I can see why that would cross your mind. It didn't even occur to me. Name of the coroner who wrote it. Courtney Stevens. Oh my, Courtney Stevens.
Strike a light!
It appears that the professor's autopsy was conducted by Dr. Scythe 10 years ago, and a few days ago, Mr. Drebber very deliberately stole the waxwork of the professor from Madame Tuspel's. A waxwork that doesn't in fact resemble the victim, Mr. Asman, at all. And do you suppose there's some unsavory relationship between these events? Absolutely, I'm sure of it. There's no doubt in my mind that the professor case is at the heart of a link we have yet to uncover. Where's an objection from Van Zeeks? Oh. Between Dr. Courtney Scythe and Mr. Enoch Drebber. Hidden links, mysterious connections, secret relationships. This is almost extraordinary. We're certainly obliged now to explore this further. Right. We can't let this trial come to an end now. Not while there's a close vision hanging over the yard's best corner. Wasn't like this in my day, but was there? I like them. Oh wait, I didn't do this guy's one.
Hold it!
But you claimed the whole instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a trick.
That I did, but there's more than one way to pull a rabbit out of a hat, isn't there?
Sorry?
I grant you that given that this cage appeared from amidst an explosion, there'd have been no need to use a real person. If a waxwork had been used, the culprit would have at least had the decency to make it look like the victim.
I'm not exactly sure how much criminals are governed by decency.
The point is, even if you're making a claim about that waxwork being inside the birdcage, you need to give us some evidence. Without that, it's just not science.
I suppose we should expect nothing less than a logical argument from a fellow of the Royal Society. But that perhaps means his mind could be changed if we manage to provide suitable evidence. Oh, it must be this, yeah. Actually, I have something you'd like to see. I'd like to see, sir.
Oh? I must warn you that I firmly believe it's only wise to trust men in white coats, so given your jet black outfit, I don't mind admitting to a sense of trepidation here.
So you don't trust anyone in black? Looking in the mirror must be very trying. Oh, Ryu.
Take that!
What's that? A piece of glass? There it's unusually thick for glass.
Yes, it's a piece of broken glass that we found inside the jacket on the waxwork. As you can say, it's not ordinary glass though. It's very thick and clearly made for extra strength, much like the special glass that was developed for the construction of the Crystal Tower.
The Crystal Tower. Holy smoke!
Exactly, the centerpiece of the Great Exhibition, where the very incident we're talking about took place. Yes, those jet black steampunk clothes. On the day in question, the birdcage fell from above and smashed through a window of that special glass.
From whence this small piece originated, is that it?
Precisely. So what do you say? Now that the clear evidence in support of the assertion has been placed before you.
Well, as I said, I only trust men in white coats as a rule. However, when the reasoning is sound, it's fair to say color shouldn't come into it. In light of what you showed me here, yes, I feel obliged to change my position on that. In that case, draw up. Yeah.
Before I do that, wait.
Hold it!
I've got to ask, why have you brought that corn into court with you?
Colonel Culp, he's been growing back on the farm. Think of off on me town. He's a proper nibbler, he is.
Yes, the nibbling seems to be taking quite a while. Maybe wait until after the trial?
Oh, I don't like the sound of that. You need colonels at a time like these. When I'm somewhat big to decide, the colonels always point me in the right direction, see?
You're talking about your cob of corn?
Nibble, nubble, guilty bubble. Nibble, not guilty o. Nibble, nubble, guilty bubble. Nibble, not guilty o.
Oh, I'm not saying it again. Perhaps it's akin to fortune telling with flower petals like people do back home. Professor Harebrain's fate is to be decided by a cob of corn. You would not at least wait until we had more time to find the truth before deciding on the defendant's guilt.
Oh, I don't know about that. But me tongue's awfully full already.
Amazing. Oh my god. How do you know the word maze, actually? What?
protection.
Okay, that is right. I just wanted to make sure. Two statements clear. Okay.
Good gracious.
If you would put down your corn for a moment, juror number 5.
Oh, you mean me?
You've pointed out that it's wrong to make an accusation without evidence, but the accusation of the waxwork model was inside the second birdcage on the day in question. It's not without supporting evidence, as the defense demonstrated to the juror sitting beside you.
Oh, is that right?
Would it be fair to say you didn't follow the argument?
I don't understand much besides Colonel Cobb, to be honest.
Of course you don't.
If I could interject here.
Please do, sir.
Now that this assertion of yours about the waxwork has been backed up by some solid evidence, it would be wrong of me as a man of science not to pursue the matter further. Matter further, my bad.
Well, me too then.
Sorry?
Brainy gentleman says he's right, then he must be. See, I wouldn't dream of going against Colonel Cobb or anyone who's got stuff in between the ears.
Well, that's the summation examination. Success, if you can call it that.
Thank you, counsel. That will do. As a result, okay. 2 jurors not called guilty against 4 who called not guilty. Accordingly, the fate of the juror. Trial must continue.
You're always surprised. Oh, well done. Yeah, another wonderful victory. You're always surprised by this.
That waxwork of the despicable professor, used as a body double for the victim, is quite extraordinary case. I must say it's extremely hard to believe the assertion could possibly be true. However, it would appear that it does at least warrant further investigation.
It's the waxwork of the professor that links Mr. Drebber and Dr. Scythe. And I'm convinced there's a special significance to that link.
I don't know what you're hoping to prove, lad. I really don't.
Truth, sir. The truth, sir, by using evidence and testimony.
If the court is to delve deeper into the alleged involvement of the waxwork in this case, then the prosecution calls for the owner of the model to be summoned as a witness. The owner?
My queen?
Madam to Spells.
I really thought that Lord Van Zeeks would object to this whole line of inquiry.
Very well, I concur. Make arrangement for Madam to Spells to appear as a witness with immediate effect. Listen carefully, my learned friend.
Oh, yes?
You should know that you're on the brink of opening Pandora's box. The court shall now adjourn for 45 minutes. During that time, the prosecution will summon a new witness and prepare for her taking the stand.
Madam to Spells, yes, I shall see to it at once, my lord. Alright, another to be continued. For the sake of my highlights, I'm just gonna very quickly, well, I'm gonna split the VOD here, so like, when we come, I won't take an intermission. This is a very zesty case, David. How are you doing, my friend? Yeah, I'm not gonna take a full-fledged intermission. I'm just gonna go use the bathroom real quick, and then we'll come back and, you know, take care and finish the trial. So I'll be right back. And, yeah, this is where the VOD's gonna end, so, you know, have a good day if you're watching this and don't have time to watch the next one.